Gracias, Griffin. Thank you to PRF for having me here. It's an honor, truly, to be here in this room here. This is the second PRF that I attended. I'm really excited to talk about something that's seemingly not as fun as coffee, honestly, data. But what I want to show is how data can have huge impacts across the value chain. While I've been walking exploring this event, I've noticed a unique sound. It's an interesting mix of ideas and languages from across the value chain. So I want to do a little thing and see who is with us here today. Entonces, por favor, levanten la mano los productores y exportadores que nos acompañan. Y mira, gracias. So please raise your hand if you are a producer or exporter. Yep. Now, please raise your hand if you are a roaster or a green buyer, un tosador or un comprador. Okay, so we have a lot of representation. This is great. And so being here in this room is a very special opportunity to connect. But we know this is not enough to understand each other's business needs, right? That requires an investment and a commitment to a shared system that transcends our languages and cultures. The beautiful and challenging part about this industry is that we bring very diverse perspectives to a common goal. I want to consider something as simple as a single coffee seed. When a producer looks at it, oftentimes they can think about agronomy. And when a roaster looks at it, oftentimes they can think about how the shape affects the heat transfer in the roasting drum. These are both valid, and these are both two sides of the same coin. But in order to understand both sides, to really excel in our business, we need to bridge these perspectives through mutual understanding. And it may sound a bit surprising, but I think we can move towards that understanding with data. And so just like we learned to read a book when we were younger, we can learn to read data. This ability to read, analyze, and communicate it is called being data literate. And today, across industries, this is one of the most in-demand business skills. And anybody can learn it. Really, you don't need to have an advanced college degree. You don't need to be a tech person. Also, being data literate does not replace the craft in our industry. It actually creates systems that strengthen our systems that support coffee, just like pre-grading and cutting. And what's amazing about this is that the foundations are very cost effective. If you have a computer or a smartphone and internet, you have many free tools that can help you get started on this journey. And as we know, data can be numbers. That's probably what most people here think about when they think of data, numbers, but data can also be words. And what I want you to know is that both numbers and words are very important to record systematically. And data is nothing new, right? We've all been working with some type of data for many years. We're all familiar with things like origin, variety, processing, harvest year, cup score, volume indexing. This is foundational information. But it's okay if you don't have all of it right now. We should be really proud of the work that we have done to get here, truly. But going forward, I do really recommend that everybody try to get able and understand all of that data because it's very important as a foundation and it's only going to get more valuable. Now going forward, especially for producers, there are 3 categories of data that I recommend recording. And that's agronomy, processing, and compliance. And within each of these categories, business finances do tie in. Now, there are many little details that we can discuss, spending our precious time going line by line, but I don't want to do that right now. So I made a little shortcut for you. So now, we're going to take out our phones, open your camera, point it at the screen with the dinosaur in the middle. And you might have to tap the screen to open a link. And in this link, it will take you to a page where there is a section called free data sheets. And so I've made these free data sheets that you can download on your computer later using this link or on your phone. And these will give you a foundation to start. It's called Google Sheets. You can share them with people just by using an email, whether internal partner or external partner, you decide the permissions. And there are 3 different tabs for each of those categories that I mentioned, just to give you an idea of the things that you can think about measuring in your operation. And I'm pretty excited about data, honestly. I'm kind of a nerd. And it's okay if you're not excited about data, but it's really important. But I want to be realistic right now, because there's a lot of issues that our world is facing, and data is not going to solve every single one. It's not going to solve climate change directly. It's not going to bring back the laborers to your farm tomorrow. But it can set us up for growth and success in business when we do it right. And that's what I really like about this quote. What used to be the most important thing in some ways, and I think information will continue to be extremely important going forward. And unlike a forgotten kind of green coffee that might be hiding in the back of your warehouse getting dusty, the great thing about data is it never becomes past crop. And what I mean by that is that data is a business asset that retains its value long after the coffee is sold. And there's plenty of times when old, even simple data can be used to make new innovations. And we know that our industry is changing all the time, and we can't necessarily predict the future. But I want to take a moment to think, what has actually changed? Why is having a good cup score and a fair price for your coffee not necessarily enough to guarantee that your business is going to grow? Well, there's many reasons, of course, but one reason is that customers are much different now than they were before. Today's customers are more data literate. They have more access to many buying options than ever before. In much of North America, where I come from, customers can stand in the middle of a grocery store aisle using artificial intelligence, or AI, on their phone to learn almost any piece of information they want about a product. They are using data to find trends and products that align with their values, because they want to make sure they're bringing something genuinely good into their lives. And when we cannot be there physically with them to talk them through why they should buy our product and make the sale, data is a great way to build this customer trust. But this trust, it's kind of fragile, so we need to maintain it. In our interconnected world, customer views shape up every buying experience, whether you're buying sneakers or you're looking at flowers. And customers are seeing a lot of popular buzzwords in marketing like this. They're not necessarily bad, but the thing is that when a company makes claims in any industry for any product that they can't back up, it creates a sort of skepticism that can spread across industries into coffee. So knowing this, what we must do is we still need to continue to tell our coffee stories. They're super valuable. We need to support them with evidence of authenticity. And there's many good ways to sell coffee, but increasingly, if a big grocer wants to sell to a large distributor, they need to authenticate their product with its rigorous food safety data. These are known as Global Food Safety Initiative certifications, and SQF stands for Safe Quality Food. This is the most common one in North America. Now, SQF, well, I would say a Verve, we just passed our recent SQF audit with 96.5.
Woo! Woo!
But we didn't get there just by having great coffee. SQF treats coffee like food, and it requires roasters to show this. It's no longer enough to just say, well, the coffee is safe because it got hot in the roasting drum. Even if that's true, it requires roasters to submit evidence in the form of certificates of analysis or letters of guarantee that they receive from importers. And guess what? Some of that burden of proof does trickle down to co-ops and producers. So as a producer, if you have this information, you can support your partner farther down the value chain, because the more we help them, the more coffee they can sell. The more coffee they can sell, the more coffee they can buy from you. And these systems can seem a little cold sometimes, right? Like, we didn't get into coffee to work with data necessarily. But on the surface, data can seem to strip away some of these crucial human spirits that we love. I used to think the exact same thing. But when I dug in with an open mind, I realized there's something interesting here. And some of these systems can actually mirror how we already naturally think as coffee professionals. They reminded me of the mental checklist I would use in managing a California coffee farm, and the intuitive lens that I've seen great producers use to manage their operations. So let me show you what I mean using the concept of a risk evaluation. And what I'm about to show you is something that anybody on the value chain can use. This is a color-coded matrix that shows the risks and the severity in your operation to completely take away the guesswork of what you need to work on. I learned this as part of SQF using free information online. Don't worry that you can't see it. I just wanted to show you what these fun things look like. This is a more expanded version of that risk assessment. These are the kind of things that roasters need to show to operators for SQF. And what I want you to see is that while it looks kind of complicated, there's a lot going on here, it's not all done in one day. It takes time and consistency to get individual pieces of information to build this. And this is very powerful because, you see, each piece of information is an investment. And what I mean is that through the process of gathering this information, talking about it with your teams, and analyzing it, it gives you a clear and objective view of the strengths and weaknesses of your operation, so you know what you need to focus on to improve. In these annual sort of audits, roasters need to show auditors things like this. And what I just showed you is a more advanced format of data, right? So I just wanted to give you some context. You start from a foundation, you build it piece by piece, and you eventually get to very impactful things like passing an SQF code. And no matter what direction you choose in your business, when we take an honest look at our business data, it can do a lot more than pass audits. It can show us where we realistically stand in the global market and give us some guidance where we can aim to go. So I chose this image because I don't think that data can prevent us from running in the dark.
It does.
And so let me give you two very real examples of how tracking more numbers can save you time, money, and hard work. First example is about strategic sampling. So we know there is a cost with time and money to send green coffee samples internationally. If you have good communication with your partners across the supply chain, if you know they need 50 bags at a certain price, but if your data shows that your cost of production is actually double that, you might want to have a conversation with them, right? Pick up the phone, email them, say, hey, this is where I'm at. This is where I'm at. Let's figure this out. And having this conversation can build a lot of trust, showing that you're invested in the relationship. And so that roaster might say, you know what, you're right, I don't want to waste your time. Save that sample and send it to a more boutique roaster. It might be a better fit. And roasters, you can do your part ahead of time before this conversation to try to steer your suppliers in the right direction to send you the most appropriate samples. The next example is with strategic processing. So here's a common situation, especially in Latin America. You have a farmer who grew up making washed coffees, but recently they started to feel a big pressure that they're not doing enough. they think maybe I should be doing more whiskey or fermentations because that's what's trendy. I've seen a lot of advertisements on social media for this. And maybe if I don't do this, maybe I'll be left behind in the marketplace. Does this sound familiar to anybody? Raise your hands if this sounds familiar. So there's a lot of decisions to make. And like I said, data isn't going to be a miracle cure. But let me show you that data can give a little bit of guidance and relieve a little bit of that pressure. So if you're a producer, if you're able to section your farm into zones, and if you're able over several seasons to track the harvest data and your crop score by zone, you might find there's an area of your farm which naturally yields a higher scoring coffee just by doing a clean wash process. And so come next harvest season, if the data shows this, you have more confidence to know, you know what, I don't need to do that $120 anaerobic fermentation. It's good enough to sell as it is for a healthy price. And if you still want to do those more experimental fermentations, you can choose to do it from a section of your farm that has historically yielded lower scoring coffee to try to increase the value. But you can't do any of this without having the data. And what I want you all to see is that in both of these cases, data is not telling you you must do it this way. It's not doing that. What it's doing is it's giving you a map. And you can choose to follow that map or not, but I recommend following it so that you don't waste your precious resources walking in the wrong direction. Now, I want to go a little bit deeper into fermentations because it's a really important topic and it has a lot to do with data. I want to talk about the decision to perform more complicated fermentations. It's a really tough decision. You could ruin a crop by doing this, right? But you could also ruin it. So I want to say that I'm not here to tell anybody what fermentations they should do. That is not my place. But we cannot ignore that the global market for microbial fermentations is growing. Currently, customers are figuring out how things like anaerobic or co-ferment fit into their daily habits. There's a sort of newness that is exciting, and people are chasing these things. But as the market matures, you're going to find more customers who are asking tougher questions, trying to understand, is this product good for my health and wellness? They are going to want to verify this product. And a story is not going to be enough. Now, I imagine this could be a few people a little nervous. And that's very understandable, because nobody wants to spend this time developing something special that could give them a big advantage, only to have to give all that information away for free. But I want you to know there's a way to do this without sharing all of your trade secrets. Because people do understand that trade secrets exist, whether they're fermentations or the growth curves. And a lot of times, you can build this trust and calm the fears by providing evidence that a system exists, whether it's about food safety or quality or authenticity. It's like a nutritional fast layer. You have a lot of information on it, but it's not showing every single piece of what they did at what moment, so you can still access some other information. It's just, there's a, in the coffee industry, there's a lot of, the most common answer to the question, what should it be as well? So all these examples, there's a independent part. But what I want to say now is that we're doing really great work in this industry, and we should all be really proud of where we've come and where we are. We have an excellent foundation. A lot of times, built upon what we learned from our families or from our mentors. And we don't need to get rid of that. We're doing really well. But we should need to record this information clearly so we can continue to pass it on. When we share coffee, we know we can create amazing moments. We all have them. We need to keep doing this. But when we share data, we do a lot more. We create feedback loops that grow our business across the supply chain. We create resilience in an increasingly volatile and increasingly regulated global market. So this season, see if you can have a conversation with your partners, whoever they are, about making data a shared language. See if you can find one new thing to track this season. It can be simple. It could be your moisture content, your screen size, your soil pH, something about your roast. Whatever it is, that's what we're here for. Let's build safer, stronger, and more connected future for our industry, one data set at a time. Thank you.